Hi, and welcome back to the second hour of Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation. That just cracked me up, that montage that Jeff Reed pulled together for the open of our second hour. I mean, I was watching that press conference yesterday when Jay Carney, he kept saying unfettered, unfettered, unfettered. We have an unfettered press. I mean, this was obviously one of the talking points. Somebody hammered it into his brain, took a tent peg and a hammer, and drove the phrase unfettered into his brain, and he kept recycling that adjective over and over and over again. This is right at the time when he's trying to explain why they were tapping the phone lines or monitoring the phone lines of 100 people that work for the Associated Press. And then he's all talking about unfettered this, unfettered that. It was actually a pretty remarkable performance. I want to play some sound bites. We'll get some more phone calls here in just a second, but I want to go back to this piece by Politico because this is striking to me because it's interesting because it says something about the character of Barack Obama. Now, it doesn't matter what you thought of George Bush's politics. Setting that whole thing aside, everybody understands, knows, recognizes that George Bush was a good and decent and honorable and caring man. He was a man of character. He was a man of substance. He was a man of integrity. And there was just an appealing quality that he had. He was obviously somebody who was engaged with people. He cared about people. He was obviously deeply moved when servicemen that he had sent into harm's way lost their lives. That moved him deeply. He was a commander-in-chief, I felt, that would not ever do that, would not ever put an American life at risk unless he honestly believed it was in the best interest of the United States of America. And I do not have that same assurance whatsoever with this current president. But it's interesting then, because of the difference in the nature of President Obama's character and his personality and his demeanor, that when things start to go bad for him, there is absolutely nobody that's willing to come to his defense. A lot of people rallied around President Bush and supported him and believed in him and tried to make the best case they could for him. There were a lot of things he did that I did not agree with, but I never had any reason whatsoever to impugn his character or his basic decency or the purity of his motives. I think there were times when what he did was wrong, but I never questioned that his motives were pure. He was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to do the decent thing. He was trying to do the honorable thing. He was trying to do the thing, honestly, that in his mind was best for the United States. I don't think people think that about President Obama. I know that I certainly don't, and you probably don't either. But again, I'll go back to this Politico piece. The town is turning on President Obama, and this is very bad news for this White House. Establishment Democrats, never big fans of this president to begin with, now they tell us, are starting to speak out. And reporters are tripping over themselves to condemn lies, bullying, and shadiness in the Obama administration. Buy-in from all three D.C. stakeholders is an essential ingredient for a good old-fashioned Washington pile-on. And by the D.C. stakeholders, he's talking about Republicans, Democrats, and the media. And he says this is now a dog pile. All three of them jumping on Obama. Republicans are doing it. Establishment Democrats are doing it. And the media is in full-scale pile-on mode. So Politico says, get ready for bad stories and public scolding to pile up. Got another story in the stack. Somebody CIA saying there is another shoe that is still going to drop. We haven't heard the last of even new and fresh scandals. And listen to this. This is a liberal writing this. I mean, Politico is completely in the tank for liberalism, secular fundamentalism, biggest cheerleaders that Obama had. And listen to this. They just skewer him here. Obama's aloof, mean, and holier-than-thou rhetoric have left him with little reservoir of goodwill even among Democrats. And the press, after years of being accused of being soft on Obama while being berated by West Wing aides on matters big and small, now has every incentive to be as ruthless as can be. So what Mike Allen, Jim Vanderhey are saying, hey, look, we were in this guy's hip pocket for the first 4 years, and his aides beat us up all the time. They got up in our grill. They got in our kitchen. They hammered us. They berated us. We're tired of it. It's payback time because we were his biggest cheerleaders. We covered for him. We hacked for him. We flacked for him. What happened? We got beat up, not by him, but by his aides. And now that they've got no reason to keep protecting him, it is Katie bar the door. Whatever that expression means, I have no idea. Next paragraph. This White House's instinctive petulance, arrogance, and defensiveness have all worked to isolate Obama at a time when he most needs a support system. Notice again how these guys are political. They're even thinking of the media as a part of Obama's support system. He needs a support system. The poor guy has no friends, even in the media, that are supposed to be a part of his support system. The dam of solid Democratic solidarity has collapsed, starting with New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd's weekend scolding of the White House over Benghazi, then gushing with the news the Justice Department had sucked up an absurdly broad swath of Associated Press phone records. And you had New York Times Today and the Washington Post and USA Today all out with scathing editorials about President Obama. Well, let's grab a phone call before the break. Let's go to Wendy in Lakeland, Florida. Wendy, thanks for calling. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work and to keep us informed about what's going on, because otherwise we really wouldn't know what's going on in our country.
Well, thank you. We'll try to keep it up.
Yeah. The first thing I wanted to say was that we, the people, are being governed by liars, bullies, and criminals that we put our trust in to keep our country together. And why in the world aren't anybody that's doing the wrong things prosecuted, like the Wall Street banks and every other thing? You know, I heard a piece on Elizabeth Warren's statements today about, you know, there was never any prosecution of all of that, you know, the stealing of all the money on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't, as citizens, aren't able to do that. That's what we depend on the government to do, but it seems like they're not doing anything but taking our rights away. You know, the ammo gun control, that's one issue. I mean, I think that's all to disarm our country so that when the government gets ready to take everything, we won't have any means to defend ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I appreciate your call, Wendy, and I think that's a concern. I mean, we're watching our constitutional liberties being eroded virtually by the day. You know, and the reality is, you know, now you got this absurd situation where Eric called the Department of Justice is going to investigate itself over this AP business. They're going to investigate themselves over this. I mean, that's their job. They're the Department of Justice. So when you've got people breaking the law, it's the Department of Justice we turn to investigate and prosecute. Well, they're the ones that are responsible for this. So now we're asking the people that have committed the crime to prosecute the criminals. What are the chances that's going to happen? I mean, if there's ever a situation that called for some kind of independent counsel, this is certainly in. Can't have the fox guarding the eggs. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.